People love ways to measure progress, whether it's a black belt in karate or level 100 in a video game. When it comes to language learning, it's the A1 to C2 levels of the CEFR. But here's the thing, that framework is broken. It might work on paper, but it's not how we actually learn or use a language. So at an A1 level, you can barely order a coffee. At A2, your chances of surviving in a foreign country increase by quite a bit. At B1, you can handle almost all everyday situations. Then comes B2, C1, and then finally the C2 level, the highest degree of proficiency. You'll be able to understand anything, any situation, and you can talk even about the most complex of topics. And people care a lot about these levels. Whether you want to study abroad or apply for a job, they're often required. And language schools also structure their offers around these levels. Take our 6 weeks intensive course and you'll be guaranteed a C1 level. But even when studying on your own, it's helpful to have a framework in order to assess where you're at and what to focus on next. But this framework is fundamentally flawed. And its biggest issue, it assumes that reading, writing, listening, and speaking all develop evenly. But honestly, that's almost never the case. Some people might be able to listen to a podcast without any effort, but struggle with real-life conversations. Others might be able to write an essay in the language they're learning, but they can't follow a TV show. So the CEFR is based on a wrong assumption, and it also doesn't care how you got there or why you want to learn that language. I want you to think about how babies learn a language. They're not just given a list of 50 words to memorize and then get tested. They spend months listening, observing, and absorbing what their parents say. Only then they will start to speak their first word. So why are we taught to speak from day one or master complicated grammar before understanding native content? Our model at Languages on Fire takes into account how people actually learn a language. It focuses less on rigid testing, but on timing, comprehension, and on what's useful at each stage. We divide the journey into 4 levels. Level 1 is foundations. You start by learning the alphabet and the 500 to 1000 most common words. You also have a look at core grammar concepts. For this purpose, an Anki deck, structured course, or textbook is ideal. You want to focus on word frequency, but also on learning in context. Level 2 is the important immersion stage. This is where you build reading and listening skills. Some people like to rush here, but we say slow down and absorb. At level 2A, you start by watching comprehensible input type of YouTube videos made for language learners. Then at level 2B, you proceed to children's shows with subtitles. At level 2C, you'll be watching content made for adult native speakers. First using subtitles and then later turning them off. Level 3 is the output stage. Write, do monologues or use an AI tutor, and then finally move on to conversations with actual native speakers. Of course, you can start speaking early on if you like, but if you've built a solid foundation during immersion, your speech will be much more fluent and confident. The final level is the refinement and mastery level. If you haven't turned off your subtitles during your immersion practice so far, now is the time to do so. You'll also be working on pronunciation and eliminating the mistakes you're still making. You can dive into your target language literature or try to get native-like in any area that's important to you. And a key difference of our model is that our phases are overlapping and flexible. You might already be very confident in speaking situations typical of level 3, but still use subtitles during immersion, typical of level 2. That's totally fine. It's not so much about growing your skills in sync, but developing functional fluency, so you can use the language in ways that matter to you. So what might happen if you stick to the CEFR? Well, some people might start with immersion too early. That way they will get discouraged and stop. Others might only use native content to prove something. A third group, and I was among those, might focus on speaking early on and neglect input. And then there are the people trying to master every grammar rule before starting to speak. If you're among one of those groups, don't worry. These mistakes are common but avoidable. So if you're interested in a more strategic and natural way of learning a language, check out our entire framework at languagesonfire.com. The link is in the description. Language learning is very personal, but if you're feeling stuck or burned out, maybe it's time to rethink your strategy. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.